kid. This is the way.
I do want to go ahead and I want to move on to my next review, which is for The Mandalorian, chap. Yes, I've been doing episode reviews for The Mandalorian. I know we used to do watch parties of these, but I thought, let me go ahead and just discuss these with you guys, because all you guys are watching Mandalorian before me anyway, chap. I'm the one that's late with these reviews. I'm like, when does this come out? Is this like a Wednesday release, Friday? I don't even know what day it comes out. I'm just telling you, I finally watched it. And I want to talk about it right now with you guys, chat. And that is Season 3, Episode 2, Chapter 18, the Mines, the Waters of Mandalore. These are very long titles, chat. It's hard for me to keep track of it, chat. I just know it's Season 3, Episode 2. We're going to stick with that. We're going to simplify it, okay? And listen, as you guys know, I did enjoy the last episode of The Mandalorian, despite it, again, feeling just like a table-setting episode of sorts, in the way that we're catching up with multiple supporting characters, establishing the main story and the setting and the status of certain relationships. That's pretty much what it was, but it's still very entertaining, still fun. It gave us a lot of cool, Star Wars shenanigans, chat, which The Mandalorian has more often than not really excelled at. It's no Andor, in my opinion, but it's like, hey, this is fun content to consume, and I have enjoyed The Mandalorian. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Now with this one though, this episode starts in the same way again, but this time it's with a character I've never been particularly fond of in Star Wars and The Mandalorian, and that's Amy Sedaris' character, who I still have not learned her name. Does anyone know what her name is? Amy Sedaris' character, the mechanic on Tatooine. I don't know. I was like, that's Amy Sedaris. And she's popped up across multiple shows, Chad. The Mandalorian, obviously, all the seasons so far. The Book of Boba Fett. She had a prominent role in the Book of Boba Fett. I'm shocked we didn't see a young version of her in Obi-Wan Kenobi, Chad. I'm betting she'll probably be in Ahsoka. But she's in this. And again, she's primarily just been there for comedy. And to me, she continues to be just that. It opens with a comedic bit that didn't really work for me, and it leads to Mando just eventually just borrowing a droid, little R5 droid, chat, in order to test the environment of Mandalore, because he was told in the previous episode that Mandalore, the planet is cursed, and the atmosphere is messed up because the Empire dropped, I guess, nuclear weapons on. I'm like, Jesus, why are you using nuclear weapons? That's crazy. Don't really often hear about that in Star We chat. It's like, usually it's like, just it's lasers and missiles and proton torpedoes. I mean, the worst is like a Death Star that blows up the planet. But in this one, it's like, no, we have nuclear weapons. We wanted to make sure that you could never set a foot on there, right? So that was kind of cool, a cool little detail. But I just clearly she is a favorite of either Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau or something. But And like I've always liked to say, comedy is very subjective. It's the most subjective of genres. What I may like, you may not, and vice versa. And for me, I just like, you don't add a lot. And she's the kind of thing where she's just, listen, I'm a Star Wars fan. I know a lot of Star Wars references, but she's kind of like, the way in which she talks is like, oh, you Bantha Poodoo, oh, Mando, where's that little mud scat? Or I was like, what are you talking about? Like all these made up Star Wars creatures and shit. I'm just like, it just doesn't flow. She doesn't feel like a real person. She's so exaggerated, and it kind of it takes me out, because I'm like, this is also the same world as Andor, and it just doesn't feel that way. And again, nothing against the actress, of course. I really just don't like the material they write for her. She's too broad. She's too broad of a character, and I don't know. She's just gonna be here forever. I'm like, I was like, I'm not gonna like it. I ain't gonna change my opinion on her, Chad. She's goofy. She's a big goof. Agreed. Now the thing is though, once we get to like Mandalore, which is I guess the first time we really truly seen it in live action, we got a flashback. I want to say in the Book of Boba Fett or maybe Mandalorian season 2. I'm trying to remember exactly. But once we get to Mandalore, which we finally see it, in all of its dilapidated dystopian post-apocalyptic glory, which again, this planet has been ravaged by the Empire, I guess, at some point, which I guess they talked in this episode. Like, Mandalorian's like, hey, we ain't going with you, Palpatine. We're not going to be part of the Palpatine. Went, okay. And he just literally bombed the planet. He bombed to the point where it was not inhabitable anymore. With nuclear weapons. I'm like, that's pretty serious. So I do kind of like that. We see a little bit of the Purge again in that flashbacks, and they've referenced it in other material as well. And I have to say, chat, you know what? Like I said, once we get to Mandalore, I think the episode, it improves after that. A lot of this episode feels like, to me, it took inspiration from classic sci-fi literature, like H.G. Wells, the Time Machine, because we encounter like some really cool new flora and fauna, and when I was watching, I'm like, this looks like something I remember from the Time Machine, and it's a species that's very reminiscent to like the Morlocks, which are these kind of like Neolithic savage underdwellers, mole people. And we kind of see them like, oh, that worked out like really well. I liked all that. That was pretty neat. We also get like a pretty cool action sequence with a bit of body horror, which I didn't expect a lot of body horror in The Mandalorian or like any Star Wars property, chap. And it took me aback. I was like, ooh, I just like the designs as we get deeper and deeper into the Mandalore, which are all these underground cities. They kind of lived in these giant bubbles because like the surface was filled with these Morlock people. It's like, I kind of like this lore, like hearing all this, right? And visually, like the scene with Mandy and with the kid, Din Djarin and Grogu, it looks really cool, and it's very scary and it's very atmospheric, and I'm sure it's been viewed by a lot of people as kind of the highlight of the episode, but I have to say it's also just kind of left unexplained, which is a little frustrating. Like, they introduced something like, what the hell is that? What is that? What's it doing there? Why is it doing these things to people? And it's just like, we're not gonna talk about it. I'm like, I would like an explanation. I thought like, we're gonna get an explanation at this point. It's like, nope. I'm like, I know that it's like, hey, sometimes when you try to over-explain something, it lessens it, right? But I'm just like, this needed some form of explanation. Because our characters just deal with this thing, and it's weird, and it's gross, and it's cool, but they don't even talk about it. It's like, all right, whatever. It's like, no, let's talk about this, but they don't. I don't know. I just thought like why is this thing living here, and why is it doing what it's doing, and we just don't know. I don't know. Again, visually cool, but I was left a little frustrated. I'm like, can you explain this to me? What is going on here? I don't want to say too much for people who haven't seen the episode, because I feel like it warrants an explanation and a deeper dive into what's actually going on the planet, but they don't, unless they explain it later on. Maybe there's more like this, but we'll see. Also, Katie Sackhoff returns as Bo-Katan, and which this character is pretty impressive. Of course, Bo-Katan was introduced in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. She's been in a lot of material. She was voiced by Katie Sackhoff in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. She was created by Dave Filoni, and he had Katie Sackhoff in mind to play this character. So it's always cool. I am very happy that they have been able to transition these animated characters to live action, and most of it's worked extraordinarily well. And I'm a Katie Sackhoff fan, but she gets some really cool action scenes in here. She's showing off, and I do like that. It looks great, right? But a lot of what she does in this episode, outside of the action sequences, is pretty much just to deliver exposition. I like lore. Believe me, I love Star Wars lore. I like lore and all different things. It really immerses me in the world. But she's literally reading codex entries and plaques like on walls, like, hey, Mando, let's read this plaque. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. And like I said, I'm a big Katie Sackhoff fan. I like seeing her in these big sci-fi properties. Obviously, chat, Starbuck, from Battlestar Galactica, which she was excellent in. That was the thing. I feel like for a lot of people, that's where they discovered her. I remember her in Halloween Resurrection, chat. But she's good. It's just like, can we get more for this character to do other than just delivering exposition and kind of being a guide? She's a badass. She excels. There's no doubt about that. It looks great. She looks great. But I could give her some more to do. Give her a little more depth, because even then she's like, oh yeah, I used to rule over this place. Anyway, let me explain the lore of the water world, and I'm like, okay. And yeah, we see, and we see the kind of the underwater version of Mandalore and what that means and what it means to Mandalorians. And there's some cool stuff in the water I guess I'm curious how that's going to eventually, play out long term. But anyway, the episode is, I mean, look, it's quite stunning, and it's visually very impressive. It's pretty much cinema level in terms of its sets and use of CGI. It's like this season, I've been very impressed with the set design, production design, and CGI. Like this is definitely it's got a huge increase compared to most definitely the first season, no doubt about it. Because the first season I was like going back and forth. It's like this looks good, this doesn't look that great. Second season improved. This one is by far the best. There's no doubt about that. The thing is though, like how this episode kind of wraps up, I'm just curious what's gonna happen now, since like Mando's quest to regain his honor is kind of like, all right, there we go. I'm like, oh shit, what's gonna happen now? Because I thought it was gonna be kind of like the big part of this story. So. Okay, I mean, we're getting through a lot of these main stories pretty quickly, which is also nice. I mean, it keeps the pacing fast. But I'm wondering, okay, what's the next big step? Like, what is the trajectory of this show? Because that's the other thing that's, again, I liked in season 2 how they seemingly wrapped up the Din Djarin and Grogu storyline. He's like, all right, here you go. I took you back to your people. Luke Skywalker's going to train you. Goodbye, And now I'm going to go off and go do other adventures and have another storyline, right? But then, because everyone loves Mandy and the kid, they brought back, Baby Yoda. They brought back Grogu and the Book of Boba Fett, and they're together again. I'm like, okay, so what are we doing with this? What's this relationship? Is this going to be this? Is this going to be them together? And if we've already kind of dealt with kind of the main plot, I assumed of this particular season, it's like, okay, what are we doing now? I don't know. It's weird. So, yeah, is this going to be more adventures with them? I don't know. It just feels, I kind of feel like we're spinning our wheels. It's like, yes, this is cool. I'm liking the lore. It gets some cool action sequences and battles. It's all that, but I don't know. It's just the thing that to me is, I think, not working so far in this season. I know we're only 2 episodes in, but it's like, what is the story here? What are we doing? I don't know. So by episode 3, I hope they explain what the premise is, because so far I feel I can guess, which is like, okay, who's going to rule Mandalore? Who's going to bring the Mandalorian people together? I suppose. I think maybe that's what the main storyline's going to be. But again, I don't know. I thought it was going to be this other thing, but they're like, all right, we dealt with that. Haha. I'm like, okay, because you can't just keep doing, Mandalorian, he goes and does another job and fights a bad guy, and Grogu does something cute. It's like, I need more than that now. Like, what's happening? So, we'll see, Che. We'll see. I mean, it's a fun episode. I don't think it's as good as the first one. Visually, very stunning. But in terms of its storytelling, I'm like, all right, what are we doing? you got to get to something really quick. So, that's just my opinion, chat. I don't know. Rating, I'm not sure. I'll rate these episodes, the season, when we eventually get to the end of it, chat, which is 8 episodes again for this season. So, I guess by chapter 24, that'll be wrapping up this particular season. And they're already doing another one. They're doing season 4 and probably doing season 5, Chad. They're going to keep this going as long as possible, as much as possible. So we'll see. That's just my opinion. What do you think of this episode, Chad? Did you like it? Did you have some of the same issues that I did? Or have you just been loving The Mandalorian? I know a lot of people have. I know people saying like this. This is the stars that we want. But I'm curious. I hope everyone enjoyed the film review, and I want to take the time to tell you about the movie of the week, a film that I really enjoy and one that I think you will too. This week's movie is Scream, just in time for the release of Scream 6. Scream is directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson. A year after the murder of her mother, a teenage girl is terrorized by a killer who targets the girl and her friends by using horror films as part of a deadly game. If anyone is interested in purchasing this fantastic film, please make use of the Amazon affiliate link below in the video description. Your subsequent purchase of the film not only earns me a helpful commission, but any purchase you may make after clicking on the link itself for 24 hours would help earn me additional commissions as well. Doesn't matter if it's a Blu-ray, a video game, a pair of socks, or a washing machine, everything within 24 hours of that click can really help the channel. So go ahead and check out the film, enjoy browsing and shopping.